Master Freya, can't you believe I'm waiting? Hearing the words of the four men, all the Gulliver brothers looked up. Far from the chamber of the goddess on the highest floor, on the first floor of Battle Wilderness, Cecilling near. The soldiers' dinner was over and the huge hall looked quite empty. Now only first-tier adventurers are left here, and their voices carry far and wide. Why did you order Otter to keep the Sword Princess away? To secure victory. That's all. Are there other reasons? Who? Gren, Berlin and Valen said in turn. This scene is very rare. Siblings who can communicate with each other even without saying a word are now asking and answering, as if they were constantly wondering. That is, they have doubts about the goddess in their hearts and are not convinced. Three identical voices argued, trying to guess what Freya was thinking, and then. Do not doubt Lady Freya. It goes against our loyalty. The older man Alfric said. Hearing words from him, Gren and the others shut up. The conclusion is obvious. It doesn't matter what kind of doubts they have in their hearts, even if other group members besides them have the same doubts, the end goal is one. For the goddess, the Freya Familia, will risk their lives to fight. That is all. Mistress Freya's humor, I can understand. A voice sounded softly. Besides the four brothers, the only dark elf, Hogni, who was sitting with them, leaned against the table, hugging one knee. It's something I like, but it's taken away by others. I hate it too. There was a sense of loneliness at the end of the voice. In front of your line of vision is the seat where the boy who is not here now sat. Although it was a fake relationship and the time we spent together was definitely not long, but in the dark elf's eyes, there is nostalgia for the Bell Cranel of the Freya family. I really want to personally bring Bell for a while, not the Sword Princess, or anyone else. Compared to tough warriors like him, he doesn't have much talent. He was also rejected by the world and locked away in the little garden, where he even doubted his own cognition. But resisting the words of the goddess of beauty, the charm and all kinds of cruelty. For Hogni, who was afraid of touching other people, even more so as an elf, that human being was so interesting, so new. Hogni lowered his eyes and said what was in his heart. At that moment, he suddenly woke up. He found that Alflick and the others were all focused on him. I can really talk today. And the way of speaking is still very common. I usually talk like this, okay? Hearing the words that Hogni understood without Hadine's translation, the small human said, "Why are you so sentimental?" and his sighed mercilessly. Hogni, whose face turned red in an instant, blah, blah, he rolled his eyes and looked up in a hurry and adjusted the collar of his coat, covering half his face. Hogni. It's your freedom to wallow in emotion, but when the time comes. Oh, don't worry. This body is a cruel servant chosen by the endless darkness. The younger brothers sent indifferent glances. Alfric issued a warning. Hogni pretended to be calm with his usual twisted words. Then, he transformed into a relentless warrior and proclaimed. If we meet on the battlefield, I will split him with this sword and cut off his limbs. The goddess will pay for everything he has done. Once you're on the battlefield, it's time to present victory to the goddess. In another place. Surely, I didn't wake up. From the room on the west side of the 5th floor of Battle Wilderness, a young woman's voice rang out. Otter, who was listening silently to the other party's account, asked. You mean it's too late? A healer who is a good healer, there will still be a corresponding reserve. Healer Hythe narrowed her eyes and looked up. And Otter's stony, majestic expression remained still. However, contrary to that serious expression, the boar's ears on the head are slightly bent. Otter wasn't good at dealing with the healer. To be more precise, He felt guilty for throwing all the baptism of the members of the regiment who fought each other in the battle wilderness every day to Hythe and the others. Hythe is an excellent healer, so she was forced to take on the heavy lifting. She resented Otter very much, and Otter knew very well that he had never done anything as a group leader. Thus, in the Freya Familia power supremacy, very rarely, the position of healer and leader of LV7 is perfectly inverted. Even in the face of first-tier adventurers, Hythe still fearlessly raised his opinions. She looked at the giant boar man who was silent like a child ignoring others, and continued to report with a sigh. Already tried all means. After using recovery magic to vomit, the wound was blocked and the flesh and blood returned to the previous state. There is also breathing and pulse. It shouldn't be impossible to wake up. But, she just do not open your eyes. That is, in a comatose state. As a healer, it's hard for me to accept that word to describe her now, but it's true. After finishing talking, Hythe and Otter looked at the bed beside them. You really are a troubled woman, Horn. Lying on the bed was a young woman. Wizard of the goddess, Horn. However, her current appearance is not what everyone knows. The face of the goddess of beauty. Light gray hair that wasn't tied up and fell to her shoulders. Otter and the others knew that the pupils the same color as the hair were inside the closed lids. This posture is exactly the same as the street girl named Seer Flova. The Warner side, magic possessed by Horn. The unique secret method in this nether realm can perfectly transform her into a goddess Freya who is identical except for her divine power. With that power, the current Horn became one of Freya's faces. Leaking the truth to Bel and then killing yourself. I can't understand anything. What would make you do that even if you betrayed Freya-sama? Surprisingly, the little garden built by Freya among them, Horn not only violated the taboo, contacted Bel, and even revealed the truth about her and Bel. It could also be said that she was the one who destroyed Freya's little garden. At least that's how it seemed to Hythe and the others. This trust-breaking act spread throughout the entire faction. If not for the master's order, the members of the regiment would not hesitate to turn the girl into a corpse. Even Hythe, who has worked with her for a long time and knows her well, is no exception. For a moment, the pupils of this girl who only offered her allegiance to the goddess stared at Horn with a cold light. She seemed to be reaching out to grab the sleeping girl's slender neck at any moment, and Otter was watching her expressionless face. At that moment, Hythe closed his eyes and sighed. Following Lady Freya's will, I managed to keep her alive. But that's all. I can't do any better than that. Hythe's voice echoed through the spacious room. This is an elegant white room incompatible with the sinner who betrayed the goddess. There is only one bed in the room. Against the background of a church-like holy atmosphere, one cannot help but think about the gap between heaven and earth where souls remain in it. The box-shaped bed where the girl slept looked like a coffin. If flowers were placed underneath, everyone would believe she was a corpse. Like a character from a fairy tale, the girl who was once called Seer is sleeping here. Do you know why you don't wake up? I can only speculate from the point of view of not being a god. Never mind, Otter insisted that she keep her eyes like that. The first possibility that comes to mind is that Horn herself refuses to wake up. From the suicide plan, it can be clearly seen that she believes she has committed a crime and is ashamed of Lady Freya. If the spirit wishes to sleep forever, so there is no point in healing the body. And then Hythe was talking about his own hypothesis, and at this point, she paused. After hesitating for a long time, she made it into words. Perhaps she is keeping the main hill that Freya-sama wants to bury now. This time, even Otter also kept his mouth shut. Horn's body is bruised. not the body of a god. But now, the flesh's own crisis no longer exists. Although consciousness has been severed, the only secret method has not been removed. So, it can only be assumed that Horn has been keeping his magic, not to lose something. Speaking of which, it took a while. Hythe shook his head weakly. It's just my speculation, it's just meaningless jokes. Please forget about it. Otter answered the girl perfunctorily. Only this girl knew the inner thoughts of the goddess, or, it's something the adult didn't realize. Sometimes, the goddess's feelings will flow upstream to Horn along Warner Side's connection. Otter had heard Freya say that. With eyes closed. What are you thinking, why are you sleeping? The man could not understand his expectations until the end, and never tried. Because yes, all he can do is fight. Because yes, the strongest, Otter, in other words, all he has to do is defeat the enemies of the goddess. So, he knew very well that he was not qualified, but he still asked aloud. What kind of dream are you having right now?